Hi, welcome back to another video of A Course in Miracles. So today we are on lesson 15 and I have a pretty cool story that I'm going to share about one of my own experiences related to this lesson. So let's dive in. Welcome back. My name is Kara Michelle and I'm here to help you live your truth. And that means opening your eyes, seeing things differently, and being able to really understand what's going on in the world around you. And so lesson 15 is my thoughts are images that I have made. My thoughts are images that I have made. Now, what most of us, until you start your awareness journey, most of us don't realize that our thoughts are really just our images and perceptions around what we've experienced and how we see things. So your thought is like an image playing out. It's like a little movie playing out all the time. And it could be a really good movie, it could be a really bad movie. You know, that's up to you and where you focus and what your kind of patterns are, whether you've become aware of them yet or not. But it's just like this image playing back. And this lesson itself, I'm going to read a couple parts off of it because it talks, in my perspective, it's talking a little bit about energy as well, around like the energy that makes up these objects or these things that we see around us. So it's a tiny bit wordy, as you've probably seen if you are reading alongside me with the book, but it says, "It is because the thoughts you think appear as images that you do not recognize them as nothing," right? We think and we see these images when we have our thoughts, so we automatically give them a lot of meaning and see them as something very important or something very meaningful or stressful or exciting. We attach emotions into them because that's how we're perceiving them. But if we recognize them as nothing, there's a lot of freedom in that. That's a huge part of like this whole process, right? Is uncovering what is actually truth and what is just an illusion. And our thoughts are very often just illusions. So you think that you think them, and so you think that you see them. Now, what this means is that your perception creates your reality. So we've all been there. Maybe you think, I'll give a personal example. I used to think that like my voice didn't matter and people didn't really care if I was around. So because those were the thoughts I was thinking, that is what I would see in my reality. I would go out and be at like a gathering or a get together, and I'm already thinking about how I don't really matter and people probably don't want me there. So I'm gonna notice like, oh, that person kind of gave me a dirty look, and that person talked to me for a few minutes and then like went to go get some food or whatever, right? And so I'm continuing to fuel my own perception. What I'm thinking, I'm going to see. This is why the power of the mind is so important in any area of your life, because if you can start to think positive thoughts, you're going to see that reflected in your reality, just because that's how your brain works. So instead of thinking that, you know, there's not enough money and you're always going to be financially struggling, that's what you will see. If you think that, you're going to see that. You're going to notice more and more money coming from your bank account. You're going to notice more bills and things like that. But if you start to think the opposite and see, or think and tell yourself, okay, there are a lot of different ways money can come in. You know, I'm open to that. I see money coming in here for people. I see this, I see that. You're going to notice it in the reality so much more, which then reaffirms that belief that it's possible for you, and it aligns your energy with what you want as well. So the things you're telling yourself about money, love, career, relationships, lifestyle, yourself, your self-image and your confidence, whatever you're telling yourself, you're going to see reflected. So you really want to be extra aware of what it is you're focusing on. Now, it says this is not actually seeing, it is image making. It takes the place of seeing and replaces vision with illusions. I get chills. Like, it's replacing vision with illusions. Your true self, when you are just fully aligned with who you are and you're living in love and you're living in this, you know, really good vibrational state that all of us are meant to be living in, the discord, the limiting beliefs, the traumas, those aren't our true self. Like when you can do the work, and it takes time, I've been doing it for like 8 years now, but when I did that work to uncover who I truly am, I can see so much around the illusions of this world, the illusions of how other people are talking or treating me, the illusions around, you know, money and what's possible. All these things become illusions, and my vision, my true ability, my intuition, you know, my connection to not only myself but to the world around me has grown like 100-fold. And so I have the awareness, I have the new connection to what my thoughts are doing in terms of creating these images and this reality around me, okay? So it takes the place of seeing, replacing visions with illusions. And now as this is where it gets kind of cool, and this is where I have a really, I think, really neat personal story. This says, so it might be out there for you, so please just have an open mind. Or not, you can leave, it's cool too, whatever feels good for you. But it is really cool. So this is the introductory idea to the process of image making that you call seeing. So we call it like, oh, I'm seeing this, or I saw that happening. But it's just, if we do think of it and break it down logically, it is just image making. Your mind is making an image based on your beliefs, your experiences, all these things, and it's creating this story here. You'll begin to understand that, or you'll begin to understand it when you have seen little edges of light around the same familiar objects which you see now. This is the beginning of real vision. You can be certain that real vision will come quickly when this has occurred. And so I feel like this is a little bit like loose in terms of how you interpret it. You could be seeing it as like, oh wait, am I actually supposed to see, like, literally see light and like, I don't know, sparkly light around these things I'm looking at? Or is it just meaning that I'm like seeing things differently instead of seeing a person here as this like physical being, and I'm creating all these images around how I see them or what I think about them? I'm seeing like an aura, or I'm seeing that like, oh, they are in fact actually more than just this physical thing I'm seeing. They are a soul or an energy body or whatever. There's a lot of different ways I feel like you can look at this. And it talks about light episodes, which it says, don't be afraid, it's just signs that you are opening up. So for example, when I started going through my spiritual awakening after my brother passed away, I know I would get like the little sparkles, and it's really interesting because that's something I've had for years now, but this last month or two has been getting like way stronger, to the point where I feel like every day when something's in alignment or when something's feeling really good, I see these sparkles just like randomly around me, and I'm like, oh, it's really cool. Like I can't explain it, but it's there. And the story that really helped me understand the image I was creating around stuff, and the fact that like I'm seeing something as like a really dense physical object and that's all it is, was again, it was after my brother Derek passed away. I think it was probably within the first year. I started rereading some books that my dad had always loved and had shared with me, called Seth Speaks by Jane Roberts. If you haven't read them, and if you're open to reading them, it's very cool. It's very similar to Abraham Hicks, where she's channeling a higher vibrational being. So it's not like a ghost, it's not an entity, it's not something bad, it's just a soul that's coming through, and she channels them. And so my dad had given me, he had talked about these books when I was younger, and had given me his favorite Seth Speaks book before I went away for my first year of college. And then it happened to be that January my brother passed away, and so I began reading especially the parts of this book that were related to death and what happens after, and like what is actually the purpose of this life. And I remember when I came back home, my mom and I were having this big conversation one night, and I looked over at the couch that she was sitting on, and like, I've never had this happen before that or since that. It was like this very strange, and it's hard to describe, but I was looking at the couch, and all of a sudden it was like I could see behind the couch, or like into the couch, where I didn't see this physical, I think it was like a beige fake leather, might have been, I don't know, yeah, like leathery couch. And I could see, instead of seeing that, I just saw like so many little, it was like little molecules, little particles, and I just saw all these little dots of energy. And it was like, I could see that, let's just keep doing this, I could just see that these dots were like moving and vibrating at this really fast pace, but that this is all, I'm gonna stop moving my hands now, I'm distracting myself, that this was all going on to create the physical representation of that couch. And I knew nothing about quantum theory, the quantum field, quantum physics. This was like years, like seven or eight years ago. So years before, maybe even 9 years ago actually, before I looked into and started understanding quantum healing and quantum physics. So I had zero knowledge about any of this, but it was like this weird ability to see. Now, this is what they're saying, where like you replace the vision with illusions if you're being stuck in the old way. And in this moment, I was replacing the illusion with the vision. So the illusion is that this is a physical object. Like, yes, it is physical, it is like three-dimensional, and we live in a three-dimensional world, but it's actually so much more than that. And if we look at quantum physics and the particle theory and all of those kinds of things, this is really just a whole bunch of particles that are vibrating, and they have formed, they're moving at such a fast, they're moving at a different frequency, different velocity, that they create this physical object. And that's a huge part of everything that happens on planet Earth because of gravity, because of the density of this planet that like holds things down and pulls things together. If we could like look at this under some kind of crazy microscope or something and look at it, we would see it's actually in fact just a whole bunch of particles, and most of those particles are actually majority empty space. So I'm not going to get into like crazy stuff with this now. I do have a few other videos on quantum healing and stuff like that if you want to know more. But the point is that like, instead of seeing the couch as just like, oh, there's a couch and like it's just this physical object and that's all it is, it was like all of a sudden in my mind's eye could see, no, it's actually like all of these things that are making it up, and it's just that my eyes are only able to see a certain thing. So my eyes just see it as physical because I don't have the ability to like zoom in like a crazy good microscope to see the particles and see what's actually happening underneath it. And so this was like a big awakening moment for myself around matter and around like particles and physical things in general. And it allowed me to start to see, yeah, that there is energy behind all of these things. So instead of just like energy behind our thoughts, as well as energy behind like the people or the situations or the earth, right? Now, because I'm on a huge tangent right now, I'm gonna try to wrap this up. But really being able to, so I guess the moral of the story is that as you start to see things differently, and as you start to question your thoughts and look at your perspective, and you start to realize like, okay, wait, this maybe isn't as real as I thought it was. This belief, I'm telling myself, maybe it isn't as real as I thought it was. this memory that I'm playing out over and over again. Maybe it isn't as real as I thought it was. This experience I had with this person that caused me a lot of pain, maybe it isn't as real as I thought it was. This will open you up to a lot of opportunity for healing, a lot of freedom, and a lot of abilities to move forward in your life in really beautiful ways, because you're no longer attached to the heaviness and the density of what's going on around you. You're able to kind of tap in and see that bigger picture and like pull yourself out to see, okay, it's actually just not really, does not mean nearly as much as what I've been allowing it to mean. So I think it allows you to take your power back, and you realize that your thoughts are images you have made. And so you don't have to really give them any power. You can choose new thoughts, which means new images. And ultimately, you can just see that it doesn't actually mean anything. Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't mean anything. It just means whatever you think it does. So the practice for today, wrapping this up. My bad. If you are enjoying this so far, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, turn on notifications. As you can tell, I have not been doing these lessons daily, but I am going to try and do them like somewhat consistently still, so that I can plug away and continue sharing them with you as I move along my own journey as well. The practice for today is to repeat to yourself and then apply it to whatever you see around you. So this table is an image that I have made. This water bottle is an image that I have made. This window is an image that I have made. And you're gonna look around for about a minute and just say that to different objects. Now, again, your logical mind might be like, no, that's a window. It's not an image. I didn't create the image of a window, it's a window. Or that's a table. Like, I'm not making up some weird image or anything, but it's about seeing the truth behind it. So like, this table is an image that I made, in the sense that you're probably, when you look at a table, and we talk about this in one of the earlier lessons, when you look at a table, you are immediately projecting all your previous awareness of what a table does, of like why we would use it, of places you have seen tables or different kinds of tables, or old memories of putting your teacup down on the table, right? Like all of these random images that don't really matter are projected into that when you see it. And you might not be aware of it, but it's happening subconsciously, because it's all a culmination of your experiences and your thoughts and your beliefs. So seeing that this is just an image that I have made, and it doesn't actually necessarily mean all that much. And I think what's so beautiful about this, more so than the physical objects, even though that is what I gave most of the examples to, and that is the examples given in this book, but I think it's pretty cool to use this in perspective to situations going on in your life. So this situation with a friend is actually an image that I have made, because it is. Your image of what's going on is going to be very different than their image of what's going on, because we both have different experiences, perspectives, backgrounds, traumas, beliefs, desires and goals. We both are seeing through very different lenses. So this is why when you have a disagreement with someone, I think if you can see, wait a minute, this is just an image I have made. This is just my perspective and the image and perception I've created, which is why I don't think it's ever possible to be fully right. And so I personally try my best to always look at both sides, because I'm like, wow, yeah, my image, what I'm seeing and perceiving is this, this, and this. But that person could have a totally different idea or experience of that, and it doesn't make either of us right or wrong. It's just, we both have our own images, we both have our own ideas about it. So this is going to allow you to be a lot more open to the process, open to things going on around you, and potentially, hopefully, it also opens you up to the fact that there is more going on than meets the eye energetically. So with that example I shared of me being able to see like all of the particles dancing in the couch, and I was like shocked. I was like, I don't even know. And it was like this weird experience. I'll never forget that day. But it changed everything, because then I started to really see, wow, there is actually so much more that we are unaware of because of our own very limited perception and our limited focus. So the more we can open up and just be aware and practicing these different things, the more changes we'll notice. So that is lesson 15. My thoughts are images that I have made. Do it a few times throughout the day. It says do not do it any more times than 3. And yeah, I really hope this was helpful for you. I'm excited to continue plugging away with these. There's just a lot of wisdom, a lot of perspective shift and knowledge inside this book. So bear with me as we plug away slowly, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you so much for being here.